Welcome to Said in Stone, an Ozinga podcast, where we converge with industry leaders, our own expert coworkers, and others on what we've made, what we can build on, and the legacy we'll leave behind. Subscribe to the program on your preferred podcast app, as well as on YouTube for full video of every conversation. And give us a follow on Instagram at saidinstone_podcast. In celebration of Women in Construction Week, we welcome Ozinga Ready Mix driver Lisa Hirsch. As you'll hear today, Lisa had a busy career in print, advertising, and public relations before changing course and trading life behind a desk for the open road as one of our talented Wisconsin coworkers. She joins us to discuss that journey and how the industry's inclusivity has evolved during her time behind the wheel. Let's check out today's conversation, led by Ozinga CEO Marty Ozinga.
It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're coming from Wisconsin this morning?
I am coming from Wisconsin,
Okay.
yeah. Nice to make the trip down. I actually used to live in the area. So.
Yeah, I want to hear more about that. I often like to just start at the beginning, hear people's stories kind of from the beginning. Where'd you grow up? Where you from, all that kind of stuff.
So many years ago, I was born in northeast Wisconsin, small town girl, youngest of 7 girls.
Oh, wow. Now, when you say northeast, like where?
Oconto County, like right Highway 32, like
Okay.
Lakes Country, where a lot of people would go to vacation. Just over an hour north of Green Bay.
Okay.
Kind of, if you drew a line between Green Bay and Rhinelander, right about in the middle.
Okay, Got it. And the youngest of 7
girls.
7, all girls.
All girls.
No boys.
None.
I just want to interject this real quick. It's fascinating to me that on a planet of 8 billion people, without one-child policies in China and whatever, that God made it so that there's roughly 50-50 people of gender in the entire 8 billion or whatever, and yet you have families like I grew up with 6 boys, you grew up with 7 girls, and yet when it all shakes out, it's roughly 50-50.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
I've actually been thinking about it a lot, because we're going to talk about women in construction, and I was thinking about growing up in an all-women household, and just 7 people did not turn out the same.
Yeah.
Just 6 brothers did not turn out the same.
And how did your dad, you think, how was that for him? Because I have a brother. I have 2 brothers who have all girls as well, and I'm just that's not uncommon. But 7 girls and your dad.
He was the postmaster in town, and kind of joke that there's more bars than gas stations in a small town. That he'd stop on the way home for his community interaction before coming home to a bunch of bickering women. I mean, we're all spread out in ages too. So
what's the spread of the 7?
17 years.
Okay.
So the first 5 are about 2 years apart, and there's a 5-year gap, and then 4 years in me.
Okay.
He passed away when I was 9.
Oh, wow.
So I was pretty young. So
Yeah.
a lot of times life for my older sisters was different than life for the younger. So.
Well, how old was he?
52.
That is so young. That's just a little older than me.
Yeah.
What you mind me asking? What did he?
Colon cancer.
Wow. Okay. Sorry to hear that. Wow.
Yeah. So, but honestly, that's a trajectory in our lives too.
Yeah.
I grew up with my mom was very involved in the church, and Dad had been, I heard, in my younger years, but that really brought our faith in our family. And really set the roots pretty deep.
Yeah, I would imagine that kind of disruptive event really shocks the system.
You kind of learn the sovereignty of God.
Yeah.
I mean, for years you can be the victim. Oh, I'm an orphan.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, but just older sisters. Oh, you guys have it so good.
Right.
It was so hard when we were growing up, but then I think they learned that life had really gotten different before God redirected our path.
Yeah. So you're 9 years old and your dad passes, and then what else changed at that point? Did you end up staying where you were, or did you?
Yeah, Mom had never gotten her driver's license when Dad was diagnosed. She got her driver's license.
Oh, wow.
And by the time I got my driver's license, she was ready to get in the passenger seat again. So kind of goes along with driving. I've always loved driving. So I guess, but she did go back to work. So instead of having a stay-at-home mom, she was working at my uncle's grocery store or different places, became the town clerk in our small town.
Wow.
did what she needed to survive. So I guess
Yeah.
that's one of the things I've been thinking about in the last week, that where you learn that you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
So becoming a driver a couple years ago, a lot of people would be like, oh, why are you, well, I just needed something a little bit more bulletproof than the background that I did have.
Yeah. As you're growing up then after your dad passes, and then where did you stay in Wisconsin the entire, like at what point did you leave? Or did you go
I'm
off to
glad
college,
the podcast with Aaron dropped this morning, because
Okay.
I've been thinking, how do I tell my boss that I hated school? But growing up in northern Wisconsin,
Well, that's normal around here. We hear that all the time. My dad would say that all the time. So yeah.
I think I was in sophomore biology
Okay.
when I learned that I was an artist,
Okay.
and extra credit points got me through biology. But truly, I was an art, music person. Didn't really know I was an artist until late in high school. But back at that time, I graduated in '85. So in a small town, everything was taught a certain way. There wasn't different thoughts of neurodivergencies, and especially in girls. Can you make a living as an artist?
Right.
And I learned of commercial art, so I went to school. I ended up leaving. I was not quite 18. I moved to Milwaukee.
Okay.
Lived with a sister and her husband to go to the technical college for commercial art. It was before computers. So I was learning a lot of the old school crafts of illustration, design, airbrushing, all that. Computers were we were still doing binary code to make some cool graphic, but it was nothing like, even when I started my career, computers weren't even starting to show up. So I think nowadays we teach kids, you may end up in a career that you never knew existed.
Yeah, be open-minded.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of the story of my life. Just always kind of taking a turn in a path, just that ended up getting me into some of the top printing companies and ad agencies in the city. So a funny story, when I was going to get my CDL and I went to the cashier to pay my tuition, she goes, "Truck driving?" And I said, "Well, my first career didn't get me to retirement, so we're back at it again." So I was in love, and I came down to this area, followed love, and then a few years later ended up back in Wisconsin. And
when you say this area, you actually came to right around here?
I lived in Mokina.
Mokina, Illinois.
Kind of crazy. When I came down for orientation, I was like, man, I left this place so long ago. It was...
How long did you live around here?
In the late 80s, a couple years after college.
Okay.
Yeah.
Small world.
Yeah, when Ozinga came to Wisconsin about 10 years ago and I saw the trucks, I was like, that...
It can't be the same.
Wait, is that... and I'm probably one of your only drivers that has been to an Ozinga Christmas party.
How's that?
Because one of the guys I was dating was a contractor. Yep.
Wow, it's just so fascinating, like how these little seeds get planted, or what the things that happen.
It is. When I was listening to Aaron's podcast this morning, I was like, oh yeah, when he talks about the recession in 2008, that's when I lost my first, downsizing from the agency world, or, just I love hearing you guys talk about things in the area and how life was, because it kind of reminds me, because sometimes our memories aren't as good.
Yeah. You have to sort of jog it sometimes.
Yeah.
That's.
We can. One of my favorite things to do now is to stream some shows. Like every once in a while, I might stream a show, and I love David Kelly dramas, like Boston Legal, and a lot of the more thought-provoking. But he had this crazy show in the 90s, I think it was, called Picket Fences.
Okay.
And it came across my algorithm or whatever, and it was based in Wisconsin, small town in Wisconsin. I'm like, well, this is just interesting to see how they're going to portray it. But in the show, the wife is a doctor. He's the sheriff, and the wife is a doctor. And one night she comes home, and she's got this bag of groceries, and nobody's helping her. And I'm like, whoa, the 90s really were like that. She was a doctor. She did the grocery shopping. She was responsible for dinner. I'm like, I'm not crazy. I wasn't inferior,
Yeah.
I really was trying to do it all, because that's what we were told we had to do. You know?
So when you were done up in Milwaukee, then you ended up coming down here after?
School, came down here, realized it was best for me to go back, the relationship, I ended up, walking away.
Okay.
Almost lost a lot of me, lost everything to that, sadly, but God put me on a different path, you know. It's part of my testimony.
Yeah. Is that something you want to share today?
There's just a lot more knowledge. I'm grateful now. There's just a lot more knowledge on what it means to have somebody, like we talk about gaslighting or not. It was a chapter that I thought was closed, I guess. When I first came down for orientation, I took extra time and drove through some areas and was like, yep, it was real.
Yeah.
Real.
That's amazing how, whether it's a show or a piece of art or music or an area, a smell can start to elicit.
Yeah. You have to be in a healthy place.
Yeah.
I think for me, I spent a decade working with kids, at-risk kids. My daughter's a social worker, and that's part of what's changed my trajectory too. Like how did I end up where I'm at? Like, there's a whole different. I mean, you can look back. I was just in the last week. I've just been like, I can look back at the steps and say, people say, well, God closes the door, He opens the window. Like, you just one step at a time. You end up where you are.
Yeah.
There's just so much. When our topic is talking about women in construction, I've been pondering that a lot. Like, what are people's predispositions to what it's going to be like? What's it really like? What can I talk about? What, and I've been in the workplace for 40 years. Like, I'll tell the guys in the yard, like, I've endured some really bad stuff in the corporate world coming up in the ranks. Like, just, it's unfortunate. But I'm glad that we're in a place now that we have more awareness, more of a voice.
Right.
Because it's not always easy.
Yeah.
I was prepared for this world to be a lot more crude.
The construction world.
But I think we're raising up a generation that knows better, knows how to treat people. You still have people that don't know how to talk to other people, much less people of another gender or different background. But unfortunately, I think back in my lifetime what women have endured to make it. Yeah,
it's changed a lot over the last 20, 30 years. And it's interesting to hear you talk about, like the stereotypes of what would be a rougher or a tougher place like construction over against, the white collar. It's different, but maybe not necessarily any less difficult.
Right. I think you spend a lot of time as a woman. I mean, this speaks for me.
Yeah.
Just what could I have done to change that? What, am I too much? Am I too little? Am I too outspoken? Am I not outspoken enough? Like, I kind of just want to do my job.
Yeah, right.
And I just want to blend in. But that's never going to be. Right now, anyway. Maybe never. When they see me pull up at a job, if I haven't poured for them, they don't know me. Like, they're ready to tell me how to drive and direct me, and I'm like, oh, okay, fine. Just tell me how to turn the steering wheel, okay.
You feel like you get a lot of that?
No.
Okay.
It's rare.
Yeah.
It's rare. I don't want to offend any of my guys, but I could be offended if I said, they'll be like, oh, you did that back, and then better, you drive that better than some of the guys. And I'm like, I have my bad days too.
Right. So you were in graphic design, marketing, ad agency, this kind of career, and you hit on you touched on the recession, like how that started to change things. Can you just talk about that a little bit more, like sort of your expectations of, what kind? You said
what brought me to where I'm at.
Yeah, you said you thought you might retire in that space, and that wasn't the case. And
I love that job. That was. Like, I never thought I'd be at an ad agency, much less some of the top ad agencies in the country, Like, I never would have thought. But, we did a lot of digital, but still, the print world has changed. That was kind of where my graphics ended up through print and collateral. And I think back on all the amazing things I did. Like, I had a job as a menu designer before I, was still designing. Like, I did some really cool things that I can look back and that was awesome.
Did you ever watch Mad Men? I know that was way before this time, but that was
exactly. I have watched a few episodes, but that was a generation prior to that. We basically you celebrate everything.
Yeah.
You celebrate that you.
It just reminds me of some of those.
Yeah.
I actually had an internship in college at an ad agency.
Did you?
Yeah, and it's a fascinating thing how all the different parts of the agency come together to make a pitch, or the designers and the business people and the different. It's interesting.
I was a production manager, so I loved that I would be part of the brainstorm, and then wrote it through the execution, and then when nobody met the deadlines, I still had to meet mine to make the finished product.
Yeah.
So, I loved it. The second downsizing, God was doing some work in my life.
Okay.
It was caught a lot of us by surprise. And
what year was this now?
2014.
Okay.
My daughter was halfway through high school. The next day, I was boarding a plane to go to Charlotte, North Carolina, to attend a Proverbs 31 conference for writing and speaking. Like, my boss was like, if you want, you can come back tomorrow and pack up. I'm like, dude, no, I'm getting on a plane tomorrow. I got, there's a lot going on. And it was a good time to take a step back and be like, hey, I'm burned out.
Mm-hmm.
I did everything right, and yet still lost my job. So, so the short story is I took a year where I did waitressing at a historic restaurant downtown. Like, oh, that would be fun. When I worked downtown, I'm like, oh, this would be kind of cool. And it was fun. Still love that job. Tourists would come in from all over. I've got stories. I could write a book on the stories. Downtown Milwaukee, the German restaurant. So basically, I'd come into work in my yoga pants and throw on a dirndl and be like German Disney World, Just, I loved it. But the reality was my husband, I think that year, hit retirement age. And he's self-employed. He's a contractor, so he doesn't retire. But insurance at the time, we had affordable health care, and the next year it wasn't affordable. So the reality was I kind of had to go back and find a job with benefits. I pretty much had always been working for the health care benefits for our family.
Okay.
In the industry that I worked at, job share wasn't a thing. Even when my daughter was young, I was lucky to get 6 weeks for leave. I had 3 sick days for the year for both of us. Things were not, as flexible.
Right.
There wasn't work from home. We couldn't even pay for our gas at the pump, back then. And I'm talking to a friend of ours, and he said, why don't you come to work at, can I say UPS? He says, why don't you come to work at UPS? I'm like, this is like my husband. He played softball for his wife and I are best friends. Our kids were born together, raising our kids together. He's like, just come to UPS. I'm like, I can't afford to go work at UPS. He's like, no. He goes, you can work part-time and you get the full benefits. I'm like, okay, well, I've kind of always had an extra side gig in addition to working full-time. So I worked it out where I could start at UPS for my benefits. At that time, it paid $10 an hour. So at night, in the evening, I'd go work at UPS. But right away, I was like, wait, I can go back to school and you'll pay for it, right away. And my bosses were awesome, supervisors.
That was a benefit that UPS had?
Yeah, from day one. They're like, it was $5,000 a semester, $25,000 in your career. I'm like, this is great. This is great because I need to put some new tools in my toolbox, and maybe I can continue my career.
And what were you doing at UPS?
I started out unloading trucks.
Okay.
I showed up for orientation, and there was 6 of us. I think everybody else was right out of high school. And I was probably the only one strapping enough to unload a truck. Like, there was a football player in me. They threw us in the trucks to unload. I loved it. I was like, oh, I get paid to go to the gym. Like, okay.
You don't need a gym membership.
Yeah. But I think that's when my eyes were open to what was going on in the workforce. I think the printing company I worked for, we had the combination of blue, white collar, but and in my job, I'd fly to different companies and do press checks, or just around the city do press checks. I was always in the industry. And like I said, God was doing a work in my life. I was working with at-risk youth. My daughter and I volunteering with an organization. And when I'm in trucks with these people, they're telling me their stories. And
now, when you say in trucks,
back of semi-trucks and unloading, yeah.
Oh, like
I was
with
in the
UPS
evening shift.
Or at the, okay.
Yeah, UPS, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thoughts tend to jump around.
No, it's okay.
Thanks for following along, Marty. I switched to a night shift, thinking I could it was easier to go to school, but I forgot that I had to sleep at some point. The only other time I worked a night shift is when I worked at a White Castle between my 2 years of school. And you do the swing. You made the most money by doing the swing shift, where you sometimes one day a week you're first, second, third, But I was a lot younger then. But I realized it was an interesting shift. It's actually, you see a lot of moms that work at night shift because for those benefits.
At UPS?
At UPS.
Okay.
And then a lot of musicians and other types at night. But then I asked to move to the early morning, the sunrise shift.
Okay.
And they, after peak season, they moved me in. And then that's when COVID hit. And that was insane. So school kind of went on hold. And my buddy, who he basically was at UPS his whole career. He's like, why don't you become a feeder driver? It's basically the 18-wheelers.
Okay.
I'm like, and I was like, okay, well, they did improve our salary a lot in COVID, but like I could go from the lowest paying job to one of the best paying jobs, drive a truck. Like, okay, well, I have a reverence for it. I mean, as a little girl, I have those memories as a kid. Yeah. Like, you don't know where they come from. Right. But I remember watching trucks drive by on the highway going, when I grow up, I want to be a truck driver.
This is fascinating. I mean, the point about, like, as a kid you have and sometimes in hindsight they're a little clearer, but like this thing you thought you want, like you like to do art or to do these things, you have these different sort of dreams or ideas or whatever, but to be as a young girl to be a 18-wheeler truck driver.
I mean, nobody was doing it back then. My uncle was a dairy farmer, and then they sold the farm, basically stopped farming and did logging. Okay. And so even now, like a couple years ago, I went back to a family reunion. My cousin, who's a over-the-road driver, just like, what are you doing? I'm like, dude, I just like it.
Yeah, yeah.
I just like it.
So how did you, during COVID at UPS, how does that work to get your CD? You got a CDL or?
I mean, if you're a package car driver, I mean, people would work through the ranks, but there was such a demand that they were doing transfers at the time. Okay. So I went through, did the CDL training, and they were going to transfer us in right after we were done with school. I think in the class of 12.
So even with COVID, they're doing CDL training?
Well, no, we were on our own. Okay. So like on my own, I went.
On a computer or something?
No, at the technical college.
Oh, okay.
This was, by this point, it's 2021. So things are.
Oh, calming down a little bit.
Restarting, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
So 2021, 2022. So I go to school, but then they have a contract negotiation that year. While I was in school, Ozinga came to recruit.
To the school?
So yeah, Ozinga comes to recruit a lot of other companies, and it really just opened my eyes. Like, okay, in my mind, I'm like, okay, well.
So we were at like a job fair kind of thing at the school?
They would come in like during our lunch. They'd bring in lunch, kind of a lunch and learn, like, and we could attend if we wanted to. And it was fascinating to me. Like, here I'm thinking like, this is what I got to do. This is the next step. This is what God has planned for me, and fine, it's a great job. I can do it. It's less than 10 years to get to retirement. I think I can do this. And then I started seeing like guys coming in like, I don't have my CDL, but this is what I do for the company. And I'm like, wait, maybe I'm not going to be a driver forever. Maybe there's other things I can do. All along, I'm thinking I'm going to be driving for UPS. Well, the contract they froze all transfers at that point until the contract was negotiated. So I was intrigued by Ozinga. The human resources manager, Rebecca, comes in with a driver who's retired and mentor. And at that time, I was just like, yeah, this intrigues me. Another ready mix company had come in recruiting. Other part of me was like, I've seen a job site. I don't know that I don't know that I want to get a rig backed into a loading dock, much less muddy conditions and whatever else is going to be asked of me. I'm not sure. But then I started researching it. For me, it was days. You start out as a driver, you're going to be nights if you get a route. That's hard. That's really hard. It does a lot. When I did night shift work, it's like, it does a lot to your mental health. Yeah. I'm an introvert. My buddy's an extrovert. He's like, oh, we've got headsets on in order to, we're talking all the time. I'm like, that sounds excruciating. Like, I don't want to be talking with people the whole time I'm driving. I'm like, I'm thinking I'm going to listen to podcasts and just drive the road at night with all the other truckers, like I'm going to be around the yard, like I'm going to in and out. It's a lot more interesting. Like every load is different. I was worried about being bored as a driver, but really when I went to school, I'm like, you are watching so many things. All your senses are engaged. Like as a ready mix driver, it's even more so. I mean, when you're on a site, your one hand's going back and forth in neutral reverse, your thumb's stopping the drum, your other, Did
that take a while to get used to?
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, but there's a lot of grace.
Okay.
Not always, but in the training program, you got great trainers. Ozinga's got a great program. We started the freshman training and the sophomore training and everything in my time. The driver mentors that, you're always on camera, which can be intimidating, but really the driver, they're just saying, hey, you had a hard break here. Let's work on this. Yeah. You're looking a little bit 15 seconds in advance, or just it's there for everybody's safety and protection.
So going back to actually the decision to come to work for Ozinga, how did you actually make that decision? And
my cousin was a union steward up in Green Bay.
Okay.
He was with UPS for years, and he and I talked, and I said, hey, I'm thinking about walking away. I mean, I'm vested after 5 years, so I got a pension for a part-timer. But there's this part of me when I was doing the road test, I was like, this doesn't feel right. I mean, for people that don't have faith, you just say it's my gut. But I knew God had something else for me.
Okay.
Just made sense with my husband and I. Like, I want to be closer. In case something should happen to him. Like, I don't want to be 4 hours away, or what have you. I want to have a normal schedule, somewhat normal, that at least I can see him on Sundays or have a date night or, whatever. I wanted life to be a little bit normal. And the main thing about Ozinga, aside from that I knew the history, that the company was good company, was the thing that I saw was that there wasn't that management driver. I mean, the fact that a driver retired and went into recruiting. I saw that if somebody was valued, they were utilized in another role. And I would see that more and more when I started with Ozinga. Like, I'm like, this is a really good company. Because, I don't know. Like, one of my favorite scriptures is in James 4. Like, don't plan what tomorrow is. You know, you never know.
Yeah.
And that's what the last decade has taught me. Like, the decade before I started Ozinga, God did a lot. God did a lot in that time. Just trying to figure out what's best. Is every day perfect? No. I loved in the podcast that you just dropped this morning with Aaron, how you said it's like a bipolar. Like, everybody's sitting around drinking coffee, and then the dynamite goes off, and you're like, and then the end of the day, you're like, what's that Looney Tunes cartoon where they punch the clock? They're adversaries all day, and then they punch the clock.
Right.
Good night.
Yeah.
Good night, dog. Good night. Like, I mean, I was used to that. I was used to, my whole career has been juggling deadlines and budgets and big picture things. Like, and I see it all. I see QC. I see, you know, I realize that I'm in a driver's seat with a different perspective. Like, I'm wondering about our carbon footprint and like things that, whatever, you know, like PPEs required on the job site. Yeah, somebody worked really hard to get that contract. You know, you better believe I don't want to make us look bad by being a jerk.
I think my hope is that your story is it's given that it's not a straight line, like from a professional career standpoint, like because some people start a career in a particular industry and they spend their whole life in that industry. You know, industries change and they have, like mid-career, have to make a big change, and that's, you know, that's something that while common is not as maybe familiar for listeners. A lot of times I like to think of like where is a person who's thinking about a career right now, thinking you know, about what they're going to do, and is it going to be their entire career, or is it going to be, you know, something that's just for a short amount of time, or someone who's even mid-career and thinking like, wow, that sounds daunting to totally change. You know, I went to school for this. This is my expertise. I'm going to totally change to something else and get a whole new, even for me, I never got my CDL. And to like, for me, like I saw the book. I mean, that's a big commitment. And I've considered it a couple times myself. And I'm like, that is a big commitment. It's not
People
for everybody.
do realize, this is not for me. And for me, I was like, I'm retraining my brain.
Yeah.
And I got to give myself some grace here, you know?
That's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah, but you get a reverence for it. Like people are like, you know, other women are like, I can't believe you do this. I'm like, maybe I have the personality that is not afraid to do hard things.
So what would you tell, whether it's other females or just people in general, like given that you've had a career outside of construction, but now you've been in construction for a while. When did you start at Ozinga?
2.5 years ago.
2.5 years. A lot absorbs in 2.5 years, especially like it said when you make a mid-career change. Being a woman in construction, what do you tell people?
I see a lot more, especially now on the bigger job sites, I see a lot more women in leadership roles even. Not just, I mean, when I was growing up, maybe a woman was a flag person on a road crew or something, you know. Really, there wasn't people driving the heavy equipment. Right now, like up in Port Washington, like these are the girls that are driving the big earth
big
movers
dozers
and stuff.
and stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. And I'm like, whoa. I mean, what I love is like a girl will go by in a dump truck and they'll see me. We're passing on the way in and out, and they're like, "Hey," big waves and thumbs up.
Yeah, there's an affinity for each other.
Right, because you know it is hard.
Yeah.
You know, in the last week, I've talked to a couple. I didn't tell a lot of people that I was coming here, but talked to a couple, and I'm like, "What do you think about having a woman here?" Because I think that was intimidating when I first interviewed, and they were like, "Yeah, we don't have a woman in Oak Creek." I'm like, "I'm the only woman." Oh, and I'm sharing that bathroom with all of them? If I don't want to share that bathroom, I can use the outhouse? Okay, fine. Like, I'm a northern girl. I'm tough. I can handle this, you know? Like, it was interesting. Because I know generationally, some people just don't like change. They don't have to be older. They can be younger. They just don't like change.
Yeah. Most people, I would say.
Yeah. And there's a part of me that doesn't like change.
Yeah.
But then there's that part of me that gets really bored really fast. Like, oh, this is really mundane. What I found was that there's some younger people. Like somebody last night, we had a transfer of some trucks back to another yard, and I was riding in the pickup with another guy, and I'm like, "Hey, you know, what do you think?" And he goes, "You know, my mom was I think it was a machinist at Harley Davidson." He goes, "I'm used to my like if you know," and another guy's like, "Hey, I think I like it. It mixes it up." Other guys don't, like I said, don't know how to talk to women. They want to get away from, you know, they want to come to work and just be a man, you know. A lot of the issues that come up in a workplace have more to do with who you are as a person than your gender. And it's easier to say, well, it's because of your culture, your race, your gender, your whatever. Like, let's just stereotype it all and just attribute it to that. And in the last week, I've been thinking about, okay, what are, some of the issues I've had? And I think what it is that maybe what I was experiencing was some microaggressions that I never really realized how they can impact you. Like, yeah, I can have a near miss accident in a tunnel and be calm as a cucumber, but if my seniority is, bumped in the yard and I'm like, what? Like all those little things, you get disrespected and there's 5 little things in a row. That ticks me off, and they can be like, oh, look at her, They got different names for guys when they act that way than they do for women, but it is what it is.
Double standard, yeah.
Exactly. But
there's all different listeners, people, other guys that are driving, like I mentioned, dispatchers. There's myself. There's young women who are considering being in construction. There's just we never know who's going to be listening and who's going to hear it. But I think the part of the exercise is just to be honest and tell your story. And I think that the hope is that it encourages people along the way, whoever that might be, whatever chair they're sitting in. As I said, I grew up with all brothers, and so for me, in a lot of respects, it's still, sort of uncharted territory. I have 3 daughters now, and I'm married, and still learning the other gender. I'm on the job here myself, and I did, I grew up in the industry, and there weren't women drivers. There was women in the industry that I worked with and respect and still respect. But there weren't drivers when I grew up when I started, and we're seeing more and more of that, and it's changed. You say people like change or don't like change or whatever. Even for our company, it's changed, and I think it's it's a good change. It's a welcome change, and particularly for the next generation who's keeping an open mind and not having something like gender limit what they can and can't do. My daughter made that comment to me last year. Like she just was really encouraged. She's worked here many summers now. She's finishing her last year of college, but she just felt like to her it was very, very encouraging that that's the case, where there's not any job that can't be done by women.
When I'm driving along and people do the double take, who are the people that are giving me the thumbs up and it's a lot of times it's the older women. They see something that wasn't possible in their lifetime. And that's where it impacts me. Like when I heard that women couldn't even open their own checking account until 1974 without a male relative co-signing on the account. Really? That's I was already in elementary school.
Yeah.
Is it all perfect? No, we're all learning every day.
Right.
Like they say, experience is what you get when you didn't get what you didn't want. Like you've got managers that haven't dealt with male-female relationship, what happens, and I just try to keep my head down and get to work, But.
Yeah. One of the things that's fascinating to me is sort of the changing dynamic of the workforce from the standpoint of, kind of like disruptions in technology, for instance. Like there's a lot of talk about AI and what that's going to do to the future of the workforce, and even things like graphic design, like you talked about, stuff that's radically changing so much of art and how things are created and the demand for jobs. And one of the things that's interesting, you mentioned data center there in Mount Pleasant, but what we're seeing is a lot of demand from the data centers, whether they're, particularly up in Wisconsin, and where there's a real shortage of jobs right now is a lot of the stuff related to the data centers, electricians and even drivers and all kinds of things. Now, how sustainable that is over how long a period of time, it's anybody's guess at this point. But a lot of people are saying, well, how is AI affecting your job? And, a lot of it, from my answer to a lot of that is, well, we're supplying a ton of the concrete that's the infrastructure for the AI. Yeah. And, a lot of the sort of the future of the economy is to be determined yet as to how much of an impact it's going to have on different jobs. But I think your story is extremely compelling because industries, whether it's things that have been offshored or in your case, more of a technical dynamic that changed over time in the ad agency, that people stay of the mind to be lifelong learners and to be open to change. And because you just don't know. You don't know how things are going to change. And it seems like things are changing faster and faster. And so I find your story very compelling and very inspiring. You're constantly not afraid to try something new and different and difficult, really. I mean, to sort of the courage that it takes to do that, to me, is inspiring.
Thank you. I wish I could say I did my job perfectly. I wish I could say my interactions in the yard were stellar. Like, oh yeah, you should always hire women because they're just so nurturing and loving.
Well, I think we all look back. We can all look back on things that we could have done better. But I think the important thing, and what I'm gathering from your story, is that. And my dad would talk about this. It's almost like tuition, like you pay for some of the things that you wish you would have done better, but you're learning on the job as part of the process, and you can continue to grow and keep getting better at it, and then look to have an impact on people going forward on what have I learned from those kind of things. This is kind of what I'm gathering from some of what you're.
Yeah. I think I probably have. I mean, I don't want to sound boastful. I want to be humble in this. Like, what God has done in the last 10 years has made me more compassionate. Sometimes I'm sitting in my truck and I'm like waiting for my ticket. I'm like, God, what were you thinking? Like, sometimes people will give you a dirty look. Like, oh, you're just doing this job that, like, do you realize that I worked in some of the top B2B and B2C agencies in the city? Do you realize I did that logo? Like, it doesn't matter. It's where I am now. Like, I just appreciate where I am. Like, I on my resume, I'm probably one of the only drivers that brought in a resume instead of just the application. But it says I like to have a positive impact on the environment where I work. I'm learning more and more. That's less of what I say and more of how I do it. And people are still not going to like me at the end of the day because they're going to have their generalizations or whatever they like to think. Just whatever. People are people. We're all human.
Yeah.
I just like that in life, like when we do a job, if something went wrong, we do a postmortem. Okay, what happened? I like to look back at it and be like, okay, what could I have done better? Yeah, maybe I wanted to do my job perfect because I guess as a woman, I was thinking about that in the last week. I think perfection was my enemy. I was always trying to be perfect because I didn't want somebody to find fault with me. Like you don't, whether it's from a downsizing or whatever, like just not being respected. Like I want to do things perfectly because I want to be respected. I think this is one thing that working with men that's been great. Men are really good at let's just keep moving forward. That's a motto that we use in the working with the at-risk kids. Just keep moving forward, and you do. And I have a couple guys in the yard that I can talk to, and they'll talk me. I'd say talk me off the ledge, or just let it go.
Yeah,
let it go. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Because when I get behind the wheel, I gotta be focused. I can't let it bother me.
Yeah. There's a lot there, like from the standpoint of sort of being mentally sharp and mentally there when you're driving that heavy of a vehicle down the road or on a job site or something. Safety is such in a split second, people's lives change when you're not there. But yet we're human beings. And our minds are full of all kinds of things, whether from things from home or just from a safety standpoint, that when you do have those things that, like, say, a mistake that was made or something that, that you get that clearing. Like, is that a practice that you've... Like
a mental clearing?
Yeah.
Like a mindfulness?
Just to be present in that moment, particularly when you're driving that big of a vehicle, and just to be safe and whatnot.
I'm going to draw on a story from the end of July, a near-miss accident.
Okay.
It was a Saturday morning. We were dry batching, meaning that all the components go in the truck, you know, for people that don't know.
Yep.
And then you mix it up. And when you dry batch, it can get messy.
On the truck?
On the truck, down
Just
your
all
windshield.
over. Okay.
Of course, dispatch wants you to get on the road as fast as possible because they got somebody on the other end screaming, "Where's my concrete?"
Right.
I have to make sure that I can see through my windshield. That particular morning, it was raining, and it hadn't been raining. But like on a sunny morning, either the sun might be on my windshield or in my mirrors. And if I can't see out of either one, I'm at a loss.
Right.
So I want to make sure that it's safe before I go. Well, that morning, I was approaching the tunnel after the Mitchell interchange. And I knew there was a delay in the yard. And I knew, I was like, oh, I got to get there. But it just started raining. And in my head, I remember my instructor in school telling me something that I knew. It's one of the questions when I was 15 years old doing my exam, like, roads are slipperiest when it first starts to rain. Well, in school, roads are slipperier in a tunnel. And I'm approaching the tunnel, and I see this dump truck coming up. And I pretty much stay in the right lane because if I blow a tire, I know I'm a slow-moving vehicle. I just want to be in that right lane. And I see this truck coming up so fast, and I'm like, you can see it in the video. Like, you can see me keep looking over. And he hit the tunnel and lost control. Ricocheted off the wall on the left. I brought it down. Had slowed up, but then I brought it down to 25 before I hit the shoulder. And the dump truck just crashed into the wall right in front of me. I mean, first I was irritated, like, oh man, now I got to do paperwork. Like, is the guy okay?
Yeah.
Like, what a stupid move. Like, everything's going through your head.
Right.
Like, did I spill any concrete in this whole thing? Like, whatever.
Right.
Like, all these things are going through your head. A few days later, the DOT released the video to the media from the DOT cameras. I was like, wow. I could see the hand of God, like, stopping my truck. So when people ask me, like, I can't believe what you're doing, I'm like, you train for this.
Yeah.
You do. Like,
yeah, professional. Your older sisters, what do they think of? I guess they're all older, but
they're all retired. Man, I was going to the job the other day, and we're working a lot of hours, and I'm like, dang.
That looks kind of nice.
Yeah. They're worried, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
I guess I should say that. They're worried.
Yeah.
I actually, the day of the accident, there was a graduation party. And my sisters live all over, so for when most of us are together, it's kind of a big deal. And I said, first of all, I'm okay, but just letting you know this is what happened. And I'm like, you just can't. You can't. Like, on September 11th, I was heading to Chicago for a Graph Expo. Like, my life could have changed a lot that day.
Yeah.
It did. I mean, everybody's life changed that day. Everything could change your trajectory. You can't worry about it. Like, people say, what does your husband think? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I think he thinks it's cool. I don't know.
Yeah. What else? Any other kind of closing thoughts on our time here?
Every role that you have in life, there's more to what's going on. And I think if you can give people the benefit of the doubt that they're trying their best. I mean, if people aren't trying their best, that's going to catch up with them in the end, right? You know? But despite of who people are on the outward appearance, like, everybody deserves respect.
Yeah.
I like that there's a generation that is coming up, and I see it. Like, I was ready for contractors yelling and screaming, and that, like, we don't have to do that. We don't have to do that to get the job done.
Right.
My niece is a cop in Milwaukee. She's pretty tough.
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever going to be a man that's going to be able to handle Lizzie. I don't know. Just being open-minded.
Yeah.
Just being open-minded.
Yeah.
Like there's people have a lot to offer. You just got to give them a chance, I guess.
Yeah. I love that. I've said it a little bit, but I think a lot of your story is a reminder to myself, and I'm sure other people who listen, that we have these plans for ourselves, and then things outside of our control come in and change our plans. And just to have that open-mindedness towards, what God has in store for us, that may be different than what we had imagined or thought of. And yet
Exactly.
some of those things, even going back to childhood, were like little dreams of, that seeds that were planted throughout time. And to be kind of, I think of it in terms of, this might be sound like a strange thing, but to have your antenna up, or to have your just your discernment at a higher level to understand, that maybe there is an opportunity here that I hadn't thought of for myself.
I mean, people listening that know me could list the mistakes I've made. I could give you a longer list. But I think back on how God used that 10 years of underemployment. I mean, I did a couple really big mission trips a year in that time, and just went to parts of the world I never thought I'd be at. Changed my perspective.
Yeah.
Truly, when it comes down to it, we're all human. Really looking, for what's it all about.
Yeah, meaning, purpose.
And if I showed up for work every day and it was just about a paycheck, I'd be moving on to another job after a couple years. When I tell people how much work is going on underground before a building even starts, they're just like, what? I'm like, absolutely. Like, it's fascinating. There's so much to watch. And
that's a good metaphor for all of life. Like, there's so much under the surface that is really the foundation for all the rest that people will never see or don't see. There's a lot of people who, we interact with on a day-to-day basis, and we don't necessarily know, all the background and all the life experience and, all that's brought them to the table at this point. But I'm always encouraged by the idea that there's only one you in the entire planet, with all your life experience, with all your, gifts and talents and all the things. And because of that, you bring something unique to the table that no one else in the world brings. And, I also am encouraged by the idea that the company will be okay with or without us. To some people, that's discouraging, because it's like, well, they don't even, there's a thought, that a risky thought, that's like, whether I'm here or not, it doesn't matter. But the reality is, the company will be okay, but it won't be the same. And so, I think for me, and even hearing your story or other people's stories, the uniqueness of every story and how we are different and unique because you're here.
Yeah.
And, I appreciate you having the courage to tell your story, and, hope I'm confident it's going to be encouraging to somebody else. Part of the joy of all of this is that we may never know how much of an impact it has on who and where, but this new medium of being able to project stories all over the world. People tune in all over the world. And so somewhere in some part of the world, someone's going to hear your story, and it could change the trajectory of their life. So I appreciate you sharing your story.
Thanks.
and keep up the good work up there in Wisconsin. We're going to have a busy year up there.
Oh, yeah.
Like the busiest ever.
Yeah. It's a blessing.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be sitting home looking at the thermostat.
It's already getting started in February.
Yeah. As you were talking, I was thinking about how, the worst thing we can do is think I did you a favor by coming to work. I mean, you really have to have them, like, it's a blessing to come to work.
Yeah. Good. Well, thanks, Lisa, for coming on down. This was great. It's a fascinating story, and it's an inspiring story. And so I appreciate your honesty and just, being transparent. I think you're the first driver on the podcast so far. So for congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. Didn't you have somebody that had been a driver? There was some.
Yes. I take that back. The Merry Mixer. Al was in here. He's a longtime driver. He's still driving the Merry Mixer, but he's not out on the road delivering concrete every day. You're right. You're an active listener of the podcast. I can't get it. That's good.
That's the thing, is people are like, what, understanding what you like. When you've been a part of a world of, you see all the different moving parts and like what's necessary. Like, how you grow a company, how you decide to grow. Like, there's just so many parts to it. That
well, I mean, and the most important part is that you have people that you can rely on, that you trust, and that are going to, take pride in their craft and really do a good job, not for me and not even for the company, just almost between them and God, and just like for your own pride, and just, have integrity about the work that you do day in and day out. And we have tons of people all over the place that just do that just take such great pride in their work, their profession, their livelihood. And you're one of them, and it's inspiring, and we need each other. It only works if I come to work every day, wanting to do better than yesterday, learn from my mistakes, keep trying to do better, and everybody comes to the table with that, and that we have grace and patience and understanding, that we are, like you mentioned, we're all human beings, and but that's what I find, is the beautiful thing about our company. In relationship with our customers and other people we get to interact with, it comes down to relationships and, people who have respect for other human beings. We've said often that Ozinga continues to get work day after day, year after year, because of the relationship our drivers have and the respect they have for one another and for our customers. And you're like the ambassador for Ozinga out there, because you have this rolling billboard with these red and white stripes, and you're out there, whether it's that, under that tunnel that you talked about, or, on job sites, or, in the yard with the QC guys. I mean, you're a representation of the company, and that's what gets us repeat business.
Honestly, you have to have that gratitude. Every time I roll up, I've realized it's going to affect that job if I show up and I look happy to be there, if I thank them when the job's done. If it's delayed, do I get impatient? No, I just wait.
Yeah.
A lot of that is not who I was. I'm grateful. That's why I say God is good for this job, because I get to be that person that I wasn't before.
Yeah. That's
patient and waiting, and fine. You just
tell me when you're ready. It's a sports challenge sometimes to turn that frown upside down kind of thing. Where we not even for us, but if we're going to come across someone, whether it's that person who felt like they were cut off or in traffic or whatever, but just to maintain your composure and to be different, to bring light and hope and to do things in a way that sort of disarms people. The construction site can be a hectic, demanding place, and to maintain your cool and your composure and to want to do a good job. Again, that's why we're so proud of our drivers for all that they do. They're a great bunch of guys. Yeah, and girls. Yeah, they are. I say I love people, but I do I miss some of them when they move on to a different yard, or I love these projects that we're seeing each other. You got that you're going down the road, you're passing each other, hey. Love that. Well, thank you, and hopefully this wasn't too painful. And honestly, it was just the two of us sitting and chatting. Yeah, it's you made me very comfortable. Good. Thank you. That's part of the idea, is that I get to have conversations with all kinds of people all the time. We're just sort of publicizing these, so right. And it's a pleasure for me, because I don't get out and about as much as I'd like to. And to have an opportunity to be, have a one-on-one conversation with one of my coworkers up in Wisconsin who's delivering to all these amazing jobs and amazing customers that we have, it's a pleasure for me. So thanks for being here. It does feel like a disconnect, doesn't it? I worked for a company that was 8 brothers and sisters that ran the printing company. Okay. And there was a shift from when their dad used to play cards, bring a sack lunch and play cards with the guys at lunch, to when it just went crazy. And that's a hard thing to be. Yeah, we've been hearing about that for actually many generations through growth. When my grandpa and his brothers ran the company, having coffee in the morning with all the drivers every morning, and it's not the same. It's not like it used to be, all those kind of things. And, for a while that's hard to hear, because you want to, honor the legacy of, the those who came before you and maintain that family culture and all those kind of things. But there are trade-offs, when you get bigger. Yeah. And you can't be more than one place at a time.
Exactly. Exactly.
So you have to just trust your people and yet be very intentional about, what is it, the kind of values that we want to have. And the more you grow, the more intentional you have to be about trying to figure out how to do that. That's a job of the leadership to figure that out, keep sorting that out. So, but part of that is, hearing from the field. And that's one of the privileges of doing something like this. So thanks again for being here. And, I wish you all the best up there this year. Be safe. Great to be with you. Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to Set in Stone on your preferred podcast app, as well as on YouTube for full video of every conversation. Keep up on our social media and company updates over at ozinga.com.